Hello and welcome to my fellow earthlings, beautiful star beings, human beings, any other life that might be happening to watch this. Might be apt time to speak about cosmic influences today, with a very dramatic alignment coming up on the 21st of the solstice 2020. I am making this on the cusp of this great change that we're all going through, and I welcome you to this space. I welcome you to my videos. It's always really beautiful to make these videos and get feedback and comments. Honestly, all it takes is one comment or one subscriber and I want to make another video, because I'm motivated to serve through my teaching, to serve through what I've learnt, and to use one of my skills to help us all collectively. And one of my skills is communicating, writing, teaching, speaking. Something I love to do. So thank you for joining me here today. I really appreciate it. And I did have a video planned to make about caring for yourself while you go through healing crises. But as I was walking to this beautiful location, I don't know, I'm feeling what's more important right now is to acknowledge this turning point that's happening for us on the 21st of December, and acknowledge that we basically all graduating. All human beings on this earth right now are going through a kind of a graduation, a final exam. Some of us have already graduated, some of us are graduating. Some of us have no idea what I'm talking about. So a huge spectrum of experiences and diverse understandings unfolding right now on our planet Earth, which I just find really fascinating. And I like to try to speak, if possible, to a broad audience as possible and not alienate people with too much of a spiritual woo-woo language. But at the same time teach that and help people understand what's going on that level, because it is so important. It's such a critical level, the spiritual level. It's critical for your own evolution. It's not the final piece. It's always been there, but it's the piece of self-actualization, as Maslow would talk about in his hierarchy of needs, that human beings fulfill their basic primary needs, such as having shelter and food, their survival needs, and then beyond that, they need things like connection and belonging to a family, a tribe, loved ones. And then beyond that, they need what he called self-esteem needs. So achieving things in your life, succeeding, being happy with who you are, feeling good about yourself. And the final triangle in Maslow's hierarchy was called self-actualization, which, if you're not a spiritual person, you might interpret that as got nothing to do with spirit, but I see it as the full alignment with your spiritual self, your higher self, with source consciousness, with the quantum field of all that is, with that same great mystery that all mystics and sages speak of. So self-actualization for me is the union of our small self with that higher self, and the blessings and amazing things that come with that. So right now on this planet, we are all being invited to reconnect with our spiritual natures, and we truly have an opportunity to create a planet of love and compassion and peace after millennia of wars and greed and corruption. So in the minds of some of us, some human beings on the planet, that's almost an impossible utopia that I'm describing, because we base all we know on what's been before. So we look at history and we say, well, human beings are just kind of doomed to perpetuate the lower base instincts that we have that have created so many problems on the planet. But I say no, and so do many people say no at this time. We are actually being called to rise in consciousness and to enter that next dimension of experience, which is beyond the basic instincts, and it's a realm of light and love and forgiveness and bliss and all the good things that deep down we all want. So it's time to reimagine what this planet could look like. There's no more important time than the present to visualize a beautiful outcome for our planet Earth, especially right now while we go through so many seemingly negative and seemingly scary things unfolding on our planet Earth. So, as I said before, we're all going to be at very different places with this stuff, and what I kind of want to do, it's a little bit ambitious, but I want to suggest that there are 3 categories of graduation that are happening on the planet, and at the risk of lumping everybody into 3 categories, I will try to describe these categories, and just know that, categories don't really cut it, because every single human being is unique and is different. But I still think it serves us here on the 3rd dimensional linear experience to categorize and think about stages, because our whole experience on this planet is literally linear. So the stages is a helpful way for our mind to grasp what is going on around us. And it is really important for our mind to have a story about what's happening, to feel safe and sane. All right, that's one of the functions of our egoic mind anyway, the small self that requires a sense of safety and control, and may well go mad if that sense of safety and control is not in place. So that's a very important aspect of our egoic mind. But we also have a higher mind, which is a much more expanded version of our mental plane and our intellectual and analytical understanding of things, which is more of a collective space, and it is, I would say, vastly more intelligent than the lower mind, the egoic mind, which tends to make decisions based on fear. So I will go back to that in just a second when I talk about the first category. So these categories, we are each of us right now being called to a graduation point. And just to kind of give you some context around that, the 21st of December is another prophesized turning point for humanity and the planet. Now, one of the critical turning points, there's been a few in the last few decades, the harmonic convergence in 1986. Forgive me if I get that slightly wrong, I'm pretty sure that was the year. That was also a great planetary alignment which ushered in a more solid manifestation of the new consciousness to come. So it's not so obvious, but there were many people on the planet then who were getting, I suppose, downloads and channeled information and connection to galactic beings that started to do a lot of work. And from my understanding, it's pretty rough understanding, but the planetary grids started to be activated, the 5th dimensional planetary grids. There's probably all sorts of other things that came with that harmonic convergence, so feel free to add in the comments below. And then the next big turning point was the 2012 shift, which was prophesized by the Mayans as like the end of the world, and there was a lot of hoo-ha, I remember, at that time, and a lot of expectation in the ascending community, the higher consciousness community, about what that meant. And now looking back on that, which was 8 years ago, I've heard some commentators, speakers on the subject, speak about it being like an 8-year corridor or window of transformation that began in 2012. And certainly our planet, in the course of all this time, and I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but it's all this is happening now, right? Like from a galactic point of view, this is like a nanosecond. To us, it seems like a long time. But let's say the last few decades, I'm not sure, but our planet entered a part of the solar system that's very, very high in photonic light. So this has always been prophesized. It's a great cycle. It's called the Great Year, and it's, I think, a 26,000 year cycle. So this 8-year corridor from the 2012 to the 2020 is also super important time of transformation and transition, when the real the real battle on this earth plane for the consciousness, the spiritual consciousness, or the timeline that humanity is on, this battle has been taking place. So much of the battle has been hidden from ordinary folk that wouldn't even know there was a battle going on. Most, I guess, people on the planet have just been going about their lives and kind of, plodding along through the muck and mire of everyday existence on planet Earth. But there are a lot of us that have awakened in this period, on time, on cue, for a reason. So my real awakening began with a psychosis, as I often mention in my videos, in 2010. But I was in a dark place for a good 5 years, and I would say that really entering a space of expanded consciousness and abiding bliss really only started to happen in 2015. So again, in that corridor, that window, we call this awakening, and so many people have been going through this on the planet in the last 8 years. So it's culminating now with a conjunction between two very important planets, Saturn and Jupiter, on the 21st. And I think this happens every 400 years. And I think last time it happened, there was a big revolution. Maybe it was the revolution in the USA. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it, I know. I'm not so good with history, but if I can find some links about this stuff, I will put them down below, because people do way better justice than me to explain it, and it's really, really interesting. It's especially if you are a sciencey mind, you will actually find some quite amazing scientific evidence for what I'm describing here, such as the Schumann resonance is another bit of evidence that we have that this is really happening, guys. Planet Earth is taking off into a new dimension. For most of the history of the Earth in this dark age, we've had very low Schumann resonance, which is the measured frequency of the Earth. I think low as in like 10. Is it hertz? Sorry, not science brain. And now it's been consistently creeping up. Like there was a time there when I was following it was like 40 all the time, and now apparently it's getting into the hundreds. So these Schumann resonance spikes are so frequent now. I've heard them compared to the birthing contractions of a woman when she's about to give labour. Similarly, the Earth about to give birth. So again, I'll try and post some links below so you can get some more scientific explanation than what I can offer you. But yeah, it is very interesting. Okay, but what I can offer you that's a bit more of my expertise is the psychology, what each of us are going through internally. That's always what's interested me, because I don't know, I've been navel gazing my whole life, like looking down at myself and going, whoa, what's going on? This is just fascinating, right? Fascinating to be a human being on this planet, and all the processes and the mind level, the emotional level, all that stuff's very interesting to me. Always has been. And then when I got forced into illness, I really had to look at it then so that I could heal myself and understand and, I guess, become a master of this vehicle, this vessel, as it carries me on this earth plane. When I say master, I mean master my thoughts, master my emotions, master my experiences. And I'm always learning. There's never an end to this sort of teaching that the Earth School offers. But we're all here for different lessons. So again, getting back to the categorization, what class are you in? This is, I guess, a question for you to think about while I speak. And I'm going to assume that there's sort of three main groups. So the first group is what I would describe as people who have a very third dimensional state of consciousness at the moment. So I have talked about 3D and 5D in a previous video, which I'll link below, which might give you more information about this. But essentially, such people are, it's kind of like viewing reality through a toilet roll, right? Very limited view of reality. And when you're in a 3D perspective, you honestly think that's everything. You think your perspective is huge, but you have no idea that you're actually looking through a tiny bandwidth of experience, which is limited, as I said. So it's, the experience is limited by being in the egoic mind, and even though the heart is activated to a degree, very often they're not really connected in the third dimensional consciousness. The heart, you wouldn't really say, is online. I mean, it's not like people don't feel, they absolutely do feel, but not to the extent of someone who has ascended to the next level and is really, really feeling their emotions. So the depth of emotion is not always possible for a third dimensional person, or the emotions are there. I'll just wait for that wind. So the emotions are there, but they're not mastered. They're very imbalanced. Either way too much emotion and then reason goes out the window, or dissociated emotion, so that reason has, the mind has all the decision-making capacity and the emotions don't come into it. So third dimensional consciousness, egoic mind, is very focused on survival. What do I need to get by? It's all about me, me, me. And of course, we see that completely hijacked by our media and advertising and movies, and a lot of the messages we get from general society play into this egoic mind and its need, the ego's need to keep itself safe, to make sure it has enough money, and a lot of those beliefs and needs feel extremely real at that level. Now, the egoic mind, the third dimensional human being, has been greatly manipulated on this planet. The manipulation is one of the reasons why so many people are still in third dimensional consciousness. I guess you could imagine it's like cut off from higher states of awareness and cut off from spirituality. So you can be a believer in God or something like that and be a third dimensional person. But to be truly deeply connected to God is probably more of a 4 or 5D experience. So you might talk about God, but not really feel God, feel what it's like to connect. Years ago, when I was still very asleep, and I guess I would describe myself as a third dimensional person back then, I had a spontaneous awakening into God consciousness. Literally happened one morning, just like one of those amazing stories like Eckhart Tolle or those kinds of people that we hear about that just had a spontaneous enlightenment come to them, and it didn't last forever. But it lasted long enough. It lasted for about 3 months, and I remember being in this state of absolute bliss and love with the whole world, and realizing that is what people meant by God. So God is a state of love, not a being, it's a state of love, it's a frequency. And I mean, I probably only touched the surface of it back then, but it left such a deep impression on me that I then knew what God was. And when I say know, it's like deep in your bones, deep in your being. So to a 3D person, that kind of expanded experience and connection to all that is lacking. So that's okay though. Like this is no judgment on this, because people are where they're meant to be perfectly, right? Those beings could be really high spiritual starseed beings, come from other dimensions and galaxies. They could even be ascended masters. They have chosen to be in the body in an unconscious state of third dimensional consciousness. It's pretty unconscious really in the grand scheme of things. So they're not aware of their full capacities. They're not aware of their connection. And they've chosen that specifically in order to learn certain lessons. Because you can't, in the higher realms, right, you can't experience genuine suffering because it's the frequency is too high. So life in those realms, and this is just insights that I get from my own guides when I'm asking them all these questions about the way the world works. They share with me that, it's actually a privilege. I know it sounds weird, but it's a privilege to come to this earth and feel the negative emotions, to feel pain and suffering. And the reason we feel it is because we are blinkered, because we have forgotten our connection to Source. So it's what provides the school for us. It's the classroom or the laboratory, and it's so unique. I mean, if we could remember who we were, then we wouldn't suffer, because then we'd be like, oh, well, it was all planned and predestined, and the world is benevolent and everything's working for my highest good, and all these things that people are now awakening to. But if we've forgotten them, then we do go through pain. We go through intense pain, and we act in ways that are perhaps contrary to our spiritual nature. We might commit crimes or do mean things to people, or lie or cheat or steal, or any of these things. Again, they're just experiences that we chose to come here to have. So, yeah, there's no judgment at all. However, that group of people, the 3D class, what are they graduating to at this time? Well, for them, they've been, as I said before, they've been really manipulated by the higher consciousness beings that have not been benevolent on our planet and have been ruling from the shadows. And I'm talking about the ruling elite, the cabal, the shadow government, the deep state. There are human beings in there, but there are also extraterrestrials that have been manipulating that. This control structure, secretive in the shadows control structure, has basically exerted a mind control over the mass population on Earth through media, through education, through all these institutions that we give our authority away to. So the graduation point for a third dimensional being right now is to question that authority. So for those people, just looking around and going, hang on a minute, why should I believe my television? Why should I believe that scientist or the World Health Organization? Why should I believe the government, these political people that are so corrupt? We know they're so corrupt. The evidence is everywhere. But still we believe them, right? So into 3D consciousness, you are under a spell of mind control. And your job is to wake up from that. Your job is to see through it and question it and start to think for yourself. And when you start to think for yourself, you're going to activate your higher mind. So right now you might be an egoic mind, which has been trained to fear authority and fear the worst is going to happen. And therefore, when our authority figures tell us to be afraid of something, first thing we do is react in fear, and we do what they want us to do. So, I mean, a classic example is the toilet paper shortage across the whole planet in March this year. That was such a psyop, in my opinion. A thought planted, a fear-based thought put out in the media, and before you know it, we had a massive shortage of toilet paper. It was ridiculous. This is the mind control that I'm talking about. That is playing out with, let's just say, most of the political and social problems that we've seen in 2020 and previous years as well, but this year has highlighted things massively. So anything that you've been told to be afraid of is worth questioning, and now is the time to ask, is this the truth? And that alone is a massive mountain it's an inner mountain to climb, because to realize that we've been betrayed, lied to, deceived, to realize that everything you've maybe put your faith in for your whole life is a lie, like that's a process that you have to go through emotionally as well as intellectually. So I mean, it's wherever you are on this journey of Earth right now, your graduation is big for you. I mean, I went through that graduation a few years ago, waking up to this truth, and for a while it was really scary, and I didn't want to see it and I didn't want to believe it. So I know how hard it is. So So I send my blessings to all of those who are waking up right now. And, you know, for those of you who are already awake, have compassion, have forgiveness, have love, have patience, have patience. Remember that you too were asleep. Most human beings on this planet have been asleep for a long, long time. And we have, you know, to unprogram ourselves. And we know that took time and it was quite painful. So that's the first group. Okay, second group is people that I might lump into a label. Again, labels are tricky to use, but there is this term which I quite like kicking around, which is called the truth community. And I'm also going to call these thinkers 4D thinkers, because unlike the third dimension, which is a very controlled pattern of thinking that's been given to you by an external authority, people in fourth dimensional consciousness are thinking for themselves, critically thinking, questioning everything, doing their homework, researching, and using their own sense of truth as the guide, not what the man on the television tells me, or what the textbook tells me, or what the expert tells me. So they become their own experts. And so that's the first hallmark of fourth dimensional consciousness, is this, collapsing of the egoic mind and birthing of the higher mind. It's still a very mental space, but it does come, I must say, comes with really strong emotions as well. It's actually part of the graduation, I think, is that once one grasps what is happening on the planet, so creates a story and a meaning that actually feels true, so thus the term truth community. Once one does that, the emotions that come with it, the sense of anger and frustration, and in the fourth dimensional space, you can be living in a sense of sort of fight or flight, because it's a battle, it's a war going on down here, and it's full on, you know, emotionally and mentally, and very draining. So the graduation point for 4D thinkers will be to connect the higher mind to the higher heart, or if not the higher heart, the heart at least, to start to allow the heart to become the lead, to follow intuition. When the heart is activated, other things come online that are really quite magical for our experiences, such as knowing, a sense of deep knowing. It isn't an intellectual knowing, it's a heart knowing. Intuition, inspiration comes. It's I suppose the 4D, it's about balancing. So balancing the divine masculine, which is your rational, reasoning logic, which is so overt in the truth community, because that's the primary tool. It's like sifting through all these clues and figuring it all out, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, right? That's the divine masculine. The divine feminine is the connecting the dots through higher inspiration. It's the creative component of this. It's, you know, without the divine feminine, you wouldn't be able to connect the dots. You have to kind of not be thinking so linearly. You've got to allow things to be messy and chaotic. And the divine feminine appreciates chaos, appreciates the destruction of a structure, destruction of a structure, in order to birth something new. And so 4D people are learning to balance divine masculine, divine feminine, as well as the mind and the heart, so that they can be perfectly in balance and used as a guide to make decisions and choices. Because in that realm, as you learn to graduate, you do become a master of your emotions and your thoughts. Your thoughts and your emotions. It's your thought. The center of the thoughts, I suppose, would be the head. That's what we always think of, isn't it? So that's your challenge. Your challenge is to balance all of that. And, you know, for a lot of truth community that requires actually stepping back from all that material that you've been so invested in, like focusing constantly on the agenda and the deep state this and their plans and the one world government and, you know, the mystery that it is. And I know it is absolutely fascinating, right? But at some point there's an imbalance happens when we're too absorbed in that. So another aspect of balance for the fourth dimensional person is to stop thinking, just stop thinking and be. A balance between doing and being. Come into your body, do your breath work, connect to the planet, connect to nature. Nature's all around you. I don't care if you live in a city. You can breathe the air. That is nature. You can feel the sunshine on your skin. That is nature. You are nature. You can connect to your breath. You can connect to your big toe and spend some time admiring that big toe. Be. You know, practical things are really good too for 4D graduates, to do something with your hands, do cooking, do knitting, do woodcraft, do painting, do, you know, whatever it is, use your hands and your body, do something physical, because when we're glued to a computer screen, which 4D thinkers are, because that's where all the secrets and the analysis is to be found, the research, you're not in the body, you're in the mind, you're in the mental space, so you need to balance that by coming into the body. So yeah, make sure that the first thing you do in the morning is not checking what happened in the news, the alternative news or whatever you're following. Just sit, just let yourself be on this planet, in the moment, in the now. That's another, what will happen as 4D people work with balancing is they will come into the present moment and be at one with what is. And a danger for the truth community is that they're too much in the future, too much envisioning, worrying about, thinking about these timelines that are unfolding. When a 5D thinker will tell you that the power rests in the 0 point. This is where we get to manifest everything from, is in the now. And that in the now, in this 0 point field, anything is possible. All of those old scary timelines that are supposedly playing out can be dissolved and new ones can be created. So 4D people need to not invest too much attention into the dark agenda, because our attention is what manifests things. That's how powerful our consciousness is. So this is another lesson for the 4D people, to really start to grasp that reality is not an external thing happening out there. Reality is a result of what's happening in here. Reality is not an external thing happening out there. Reality is a result of what's happening in here. And this will be the balance point for the 4th D graduate. Okay, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll jump now to the 5th dimensional beings who, you know who you guys are, because you know what it feels like to be in 5D, and it's pretty friggin' awesome. It is magical and blissful and flowing, and time alters. Synchronicities happen all the time. You know, one thing I love about, I really deeply appreciated about 5D consciousness is being connected, just feeling so connected to people, being able to look people in the eye and feel this energetic connection that I know wasn't there a few years ago when I looked people in the eye. You know, everything has changed. My reality has changed dramatically with an elevated state of consciousness. And I'm probably just at the beginning of this journey. I think we have no idea the magic that is in store for us on this planet, and is like, I don't even want to say around the corner, it's here. Imagine, as the sun rises over a landscape and the first rays of light hit certain parts of that landscape, and it's only later that the sun rises high enough to kind of land on the forest floor or on the behind the house or on the tree, and it goes up, 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 up. So right now with our 5D birth, we are here. The sun has risen. 5D is here, guys. It is here, and it is sending rays across the planet that those of us who are aligned with that state of consciousness can feel and be in and live in. So it's only a matter of, as that sun rises, casting its light on more and more and more people, that we collectively become that 5D expression. And it's quite strange for a 5D being to live in this world, because like for us, we're just in state, it's like heaven. It's like, this is a wonderful, beautiful place. Feel amazing. This is coming from within, right? It's being generated from the very DNA, right? This is happening on, like, our DNA, or the cells in our body, let's say, are like tiny little planets, or we are like a universe inside our body. And once those cells get activated with enough photonic light, the experience of being in bliss is a natural side effect. So it just happens. It happens naturally. You don't have to fight for it, work for it, other than making conscious choices and, you know, being really careful about what you wish for, really, because as you rise in consciousness, so your manifestation powers increase, and, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. So I've noticed if I start to think in a negative line of thought, I very quickly boomerangs. I get instant feedback from the universe. So yeah, that brings me to 50 consciousness graduation. I feel like our test, our work that we're all doing at the moment is to well, there's a few things. One is to work with this manifestation, because we are literally envisioning and thus birthing the new world through our consciousness. So for us to keep really focused attention on this new world that we're creating, never mind the dramas all around us. We are not getting so involved. Most 5D beings are, if they're interested in the truth stories, they're jumping in for a little bit, but then they're getting out again, and they're spending a lot of time by themselves, with themselves, in nature, or connecting with like-minded souls to preserve that focus, right? So at a 5D level, you are a master of your thoughts and a master of your emotions, and even the slightest wrong thought, negative emotion can kind of throw you off balance. But by the same token, it's very easy to get back on balance, right? We are masters. We're kind of like, the image Spirit just showed me then was like tightrope walkers. And we totally got this. We are just creaming it. We're walking across that tightrope. While to other people, that just looks so hard, right? But we've practiced this. We've worked for it. And this is our graduation. We are nailing it. So the strength and power of the unity consciousness that's been created by the starseeds on this planet right now is palpable. I can tune into it and go, whoa, it is so strong, it's so powerful, it's so filled with the focused frequency of love. And that is our graduation, is to be in the state of what I've also heard called Christ consciousness. Christ, Yeshua, that being that lived on our planet, was one of many ascended masters who came here with these teachings of pure love, unconditional love. And, you know, that is what us 5D beings are now sitting in. It's like states of pure unconditional love, holding that frequency. It's not the grand work that, you know, maybe will go down in a Bible for the future, because there's so many of us doing it now. It's humble work. It's just existing every day as we are in these human bodies, these vessels, holding this amount of love and light. And when we witness things that are scary or dark, or we interact with people who are afraid, or there's things going on that, you know, is not the kind of ideal romanticized vision of 5D reality that we're all working towards, we bless it, we forgive it, we have patience for it, we love it. We know, we understand that all is happening in perfect timing, perfect divine timing. So in that sense, we become, as graduates, we become emissaries of source consciousness, of divine consciousness. We are that embodied. Now, every single person is. If you have a look at my 3D, 5D, what is 3D, what is 5D video, I talk about this, how, we've all got this capacity. We're all destined to wake up and flourish in this way. But it's just a matter of timing, and it's just perfect. We've got to trust. We've got to trust that Source has got this. We've got this. We are Source. We're doing it. And yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. Was there anything else? Yeah, just I suppose a final word on the graduation of the 5D consciousness beings is the importance of forgiveness. There are not that many people, I feel, on the planet right now who are capable of that total forgiveness of what's happened. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the most horrific crimes on this planet that we would see as crimes from a third dimensional level, like child abuse and child sex trafficking. Holding forgiveness for the people who've done these things is going to be, I want to say, almost impossible for people of 3D or 4D consciousness. It's vital for people of 5D consciousness to cultivate this state of forgiveness, because we cannot ascend without forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is the thing that sets us free. And I know in my own experience, it was only when I forgave my family for perceived wrongs to me. They're only perceived, right? There is no judgment from a higher level. But I felt that they were wrongs done to me, and I had to forgive that. So really it's me talking to me here. It's like, am I going to let that go? Yes. Lots and lots and lots of hard work. It's very, very hard to forgive, I know. But those of you who are at that stage where you're capable of doing that, please do that. I remember when Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman that helped him out with all his horrific child sex trafficking crimes. I got a massive calling from Spirit to actually assist in the sending her love and forgiveness as one of the emissaries of divine consciousness on this planet. That was my job, and that's what I did in my meditations. It was really random. I wasn't expecting to do that at all, but when you get a tap on the shoulder from spirit guidance like that, it's like, that's your job, that's what you go and do. Because we're all actors on the stage. We all played our parts. There's purpose, divine benevolence in absolutely everything that's happened. And therefore, in order for it to be, for the slate to be wiped clean so that we can enter a new dimension and a whole new reality for our Earth planet and all the beings that live on it, we have to forgive. We can't take this baggage with us. Okay, so yeah, so that'll be the work of the 5D beings. Yeah, all right, cool. I hope that made sense. Rather a long video. I haven't made such a long one for ages. I just want to lastly give a little plug to my new book. Ta-da! Here it is. I'm so happy because it actually, I've got the hard copy now. I published it as an ebook and it did pretty well. Thank you to anyone who supported it. I deeply appreciate it. And now I've got my hard copy, so I'll be able to sell it online. And I'm going to, for a short while, if you want to buy it, you can get a free copy of my other book, The Little Girl That Nobody Wanted. So yeah, it'll be worth it for you. And I'll post the link below. It's, for anyone who doesn't know what my book is about, it's called Spirit Gnosis, Holistic Dimensions of Mental Health, and it's book 1 on hearing voices. So I really talk a lot about the spiritual dimensions of the hearing voice experience, particularly, and it's a simple book. It's really good for people who hear voices, or if you know someone, you have a loved one that you want to work, or someone you work with. Yeah, it's kind of simple to read, I think. Great. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for being here with me if you've hung in for the long haul of 45 minutes. And yeah, sending you all so much love, especially for this transition time. Take care of yourselves. This is your work. And yeah, this is the most important thing right now. Doesn't matter what's going on. Just, go within. Think about what you need to do. Your personal graduation. If everything I said doesn't make sense to you, okay, great. Go within and ask, what's my graduation here? What's my lesson that I'm resolving, learning, and finally going to put behind me as we enter the next year? So, with that said, lots and lots of love and blessings, and namaste.